Hello, Chris Northrup from the Upper Deck for Pinstripe Chronicles. I'm here today with Lynn, and we're ready to talk Yankees.
Always ready to talk Yankees.
Yep, we got a lot, and there's so much fun stuff going on in Yankee universe right now. It's all fun and games at the moment, but there are still, things that we'd like to see changed and weaknesses that we'd like to see overcome, ways to improve the team so we can ensure that championship. Lynn, what do you think?
So this is what a great time to be alive and be a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
And this past week since we last recorded is no exception to that. I think we have so much to talk about in regard to our pitching and hitting this week.
Yeah.
And it's been an exciting week.
Yeah.
And so we want to start with pitching, Chris,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we'll start with the pitching, which has been continued to be outstanding. I mean, I think Nestor came down to earth a little bit, but then how was Nestor, did we believe Nestor was going to sustain a 1.50 ERA till September? No.
But the thing that I really believe about Nestor is because of all the things we've always said, he doesn't get in his head, even when he has an off day. And truthfully, Nestor's off day is many pitchers' okay day.
Yes.
Right. And so including in our own arsenal. So I really think that this is a blip on the radar. And look, there's going to be peaks and valleys all season long.
Right.
But the thing is how long he's going to stay in the valley. And I think when that happens, I fully expect when we see Nestor next, and we'll get to that shortly as well, that we'll have the Nestor we're used to.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt.
Sure of that.
And it wasn't a bad outing.
No.
It was not the debacle that Cole's outing was on Thursday night.
Right.
That was, 1, 2, 3 home runs off the bats of. Was that was still the.
That was still the Twins.
Yeah, the Twins. I'm sorry. I lost my focus for a second there.
Yeah.
I have Cubs on the brain. But anyway, that was against a Twins lineup that they're not hitting. But they certainly hit against Cole. They had no problem that day.
Yeah. And right off the bat, no pun intended. Right?
Right off the bat, yeah.
So for him to give up those 3 home runs, I was just sitting there saying, oh, there goes the ball game for Cole.
Right.
Because you know what happens with him.
Yeah.
But that would have shaken just about any pitcher except maybe Nestor.
Yeah.
And so, but what was especially tough is that he lasted 3 innings.
Yeah. He did not rebound from it. He
did not. Which is, confirming what we've been saying about him. Yeah. That's also it's a catch-22 because that's also why he's our ace, is because he's so hard on himself and he's so driven. Right. So that when he's rocked like that, that there's the curse part.
I know, but I think fans expected, and I know I did, for him to go out there and be the Garrett Cole that came over from Texas or from Houston every night. That's what you expect. That is not what this season has been like for Garrett Cole.
No. And that goes back to what I've said a lot on our show, is that we need to manage our expectations just a little bit. And Joe Randazzo at Yankee Librarian, with all the brouhaha over this game, tweeted out, Twitter waited 2 months to pull their Garrett Cole takes out of their drafts. And so Joe's point was that Cole has had a 2.03 ERA and 1.73 first inning pitch ERA since the end of April, but we're hearing how he always does this.
Right.
So a little reality check there.
Right.
And then,
but doesn't he always give up a home run in the first inning? I mean, it may not be real, but that does seem the case to me too.
It does seem to be the case. Like when stats aside.
I know the eye test.
Right. And then Professor Yankees, Prof Yankees is his handle, says, this is Cole's 12th start. It's the 5th time he's let up at least 3 runs.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include the game where he walked 5 and only lasted 1.2 innings.
Yeah.
I'm not remembering which series that was. And it's the 2nd time in 3 starts that he's let up at least 5 runs.
Right.
It will likely be his 3rd start not going 5 innings. Was his?
Oh boy. Yeah.
It's a little tough.
I know. I feel like, I just from an eye test kind of person, fan perspective, that Cole's letting us down when it's like when it's cold day, you don't get excited because you don't know what you're going to get. When it's Nestor day, it's like the excitement level ratchets up because Nestor is going to give you everything he's got every time. Not that Cole's not, but there's some enthusiasm about Nestor right now and his success that's infectious.
Right. Absolutely. And sorry, I'm having a on-the-spot allergy attack in my eye. So
no.
I apologize to everybody.
That's all right. We're human.
My Allegra isn't doing its job.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there's a ton that went on in terms of fan reaction about pitching.
Yeah.
And the other thing worth mentioning is Sam, her handle, we know her as Samantha √7 at Ziggy89X, posed a question this week. Any Yankee questions about the season? Well, that's a hell of a door to open. So many questions.
Yeah.
But our friend Chris, CP79NY at CPizea says his questions are: will they skip starts for Cortez, who has never pitched more than 100 innings in a season in the majors? Will they skip starts for Sevy, who hasn't pitched a full season in 4 years?
Right.
For Taillon, what about him? He missed a whole lot of last season. I'm curious to see how they figure it out. And so when I talk to Chris next, I'm going to ask him how much he charges a minute for a psychic reading.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's exactly what happened. We have Taillon today when we should be having Nestor.
Yeah.
And so what's that about, Chris? Do you have any thoughts about that? Because, Nestor, Meredith Marakovitz talked to him on the field yesterday. I caught the tail end of it, and he was saying all the right things. He's like, look, any extra rest is a good thing. We still have a long season ahead of us, blah, blah, blah. But performance-wise, it's a bit of a surprise, unless there's something about the Cubs that is a strategic move. What's your take on that?
There may be some matchup issues that we're not, that the analytic nerds know that we don't know.
Right.
At Real Bo Sheck, he said Sevy, Monty, Nestor, and Taillon have a combined 2.54 ERA in 45 starts. So I think with Taillon starting today, if you give Nestor a rest, but certainly he doesn't, his last performance didn't, I don't think, make it necessary for him to have a rest.
Right.
Just sit down and think about that last outing kind of thing.
Right. He doesn't need to be in timeout like they put Gallo in timeout, for example.
Yes, exactly. But, we are getting Yankee pitching stats that we have never seen in the history of the Yankees. And that seems like the equation for championship to me.
Yes.
I mean, knock on wood, because they're healthy. They've been healthy.
That's right. And so we've been very lucky with that, and including Sevy's return. He had a very solid outing the other night, and so but then that kind of turns us to the bullpen. I know we have things to talk about there. It's we're still missing some key arms, and Greeny, we know we don't have here, and Britton, Chris.
Britton soon, I heard. I think we reported last week or the week before that he would be throwing in June, beginning a throwing program, etc. So I think that we will have Britton back before the All-Star break, certainly. I mean, we're almost to mid-June, so, and we haven't seen him yet, but
right,
he'll be a welcome sight, even though Yankee fans do not get excited to hear Britton's back. So,
right.
It doesn't seem to light anybody up, especially.
No, and I think this is sounding a little bit like DJ. Britton was likely struggling last season, especially towards the end. We saw it. And so same with DJ, and look how he came back. I think we should take a note from that page and just be open to the fact that Britton will come back and be the regular Britton, not the last sprinter Britton.
And he'll have a fresh arm to bring to the bullpen at that time. I mean, and then there's the Clay Holmes and Chapman sort of tension. And I thought one interesting thing that I wanted to mention was when Trevino walked it off this week and won the game in such spectacular fashion. He was awarded that game belt that they hand around, and he gave it to Chapman and said that Chapman had performed so well and kept them in the game and he deserved to have it that day, and he gave it up. And that says something about the way these players feel about Chapman and his comeback.
Right. It also says a lot about Holmes and why he deserves to be in pinstripes.
I know.
Because that is the sportsmanship and the respect of your teammates that, you want to see in the big ways.
Right.
So good on him. Extremely gracious and just so sportsmanlike. And I think Chappie needed that.
Yeah, I mean, Holmes has just been a pleasant surprise. Does not even begin to describe how Yankee fans feel about Holmes. He hasn't allowed a run in his last 27 innings pitched. Now that, I don't know if he pitched last night, so it may be more now, even more. But Jesse Rogers also made a note that Holmes threw a pitch to Jason Hayward, and I would think this would have been yesterday, that at 103.5 miles per hour. And it was the fastest pitch thrown in the MLB this season. So Holmes is even replacing, Chappie's
speed.
Yeah, I mean, his signature speed.
Right. Yeah. And Holmes has really been lights out. And I think a couple episodes, Chris, we had done a lot of talking about King.
Right.
And posing the question of is King the heir apparent?
Right.
Holmes was always in our mind as also a contender, but the way things are right now, Holmes is wheeling and dealing.
Holmes is wheeling and dealing.
For sure.
It's like if it ain't broken, don't fix, Yeah, don't fix it. Right.
Right, exactly.
I almost thought I was saying that backwards for a second.
No,
Like,
you got it. You're not me, Chris. You said it right.
Yeah, I'm getting myself all twisted up today. That's because, I had unexpected guests this weekend. And that just like, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but it throws you into a real panic unless you're like the kind of housekeeper or whatever that you're always ready, which I'm not.
No. I love the personal asides we're taking here, because I was raised by, I'm really aging myself here, Donna Reed. Okay. Maybe without the apron and the crinoline, but our house was a museum, not the Addams Family kind.
Wow.
And so everything, a place for everything in its place. She had like an operational plan for cleaning the house. Mondays was dusting, Tuesdays were vacuuming, and so, and Saturday and Sunday were everything, which is why I never got to see my friends. So that being said, the doorbell will ring, and just completely nonplussed. Of course, out came all these things that were never shown to any of us that live there. The sodas and the snacks and the crudité,
Right.
Where the heck is she pulling this out of? So no, and she was pretty Nestor-like, because I know inside she was panicking, but yeah, not me. I am too type A, in a different way than my mother was. And no, I need control. And I want to plan out everything to the second.
Yeah.
No.
So it's
feel you on that.
I'm in disarray today, but I'm on it. But I'm not quite in the mindset I'm usually in.
You probably hate oversleeping too, like I do.
Yeah, there you go.
My whole day off because I'm so punctual to a fault, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
exactly.
Everyone's glad to learn all this about us.
Yes, that's right. We're human. We're human.
That's right.
Okay. Well, moving on. We're past a third of the way through the regular season. And Aaron Judge is on pace to break the single season home run record for a non-enhanced athlete with a new ball put in play this season designed not to fly as far. And the person who tweeted that out said, "This is not being talked about enough."
Right.
And I thought that was true.
Very true. You want me to spit out the stats here on that?
Or Judges.
So per the MLB, he's on pace for a 310 average, 63 home runs, 128 RBIs, 136 runs batted in, and an ops of 1.055. That's what he's on pace to do.
Right.
And so even factoring in what we just talked about with Nestor, Judge is going to slump.
Right.
But even with that, and always the caveat of, as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah.
I still think he would be similarly on pace with those normal things that happen, like some cold spots.
Yeah. Well, and his defense in center field has been outstanding. I mean, here's a man who just changes position, and I realize it's still the outfield, but it's different angles. It's different. It's not the same.
Right.
And he's pulling that off and diving for balls and getting to everything. It's just, he's having an amazing year all the way around.
Yes, he is. And it's also kind of proving he's an outfielder for all seasons, right?
Yes.
He really, so now he's like the outfield utility guy.
Yeah.
Because he just as easily could, go back to right seamlessly. And the other thing, I don't remember who mentioned it, but it also seems right, is the management prefers him there because they feel like he's in less of a position for having to do the harder plays, the diving catches, even though, like you just mentioned, we see them.
Right.
They're hoping that that's going to factor into him being less injury prone
Right.
this season. And of course, his height helps anywhere in the outfield, but, you know, making those leaps in center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're saying that about him staying healthy reminds me of a stat I have here, not a stat, but a comment that the Yankee slut made about Stanton. And she said, per Roku, Aaron Boone concedes what Eric Cressy, which Eric Cressy must be the strength and conditioning, right, or something? Or is he who is Eric Cressy?
I know the name, and
I know.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah,
but I can't confirm.
I can't either. But it says Aaron Boone concedes what Eric Cressy has been trying to tell the team since 2020. Stanton's health outcomes are improved by playing the outfield regularly. And I think the same is true with Judge. I mean, his outcomes are definitely improved, but it doesn't seem to matter whether he's playing center or right. At the moment, his outcomes are still up there.
Yeah, and even though we've seen a small sample size for Stanton so far, just taking last night and that bomb that he hit is pretty amazing. In fact, now I'm going to give the caveat that this came from the Fox commentators, but when Sevy made that home run, I just lost the tweet, but essentially it was I believe about 428 feet with a 120 velocity, give or take. I'm not reading the stat. By doing that, he's tied with one other player this season so far in the MLB, himself.
Oh, God.
So I had to like save that tweet, but obviously now I can't find it. So what the hell was saving it? But if they're right, that's why I said the caveat about where it came from.
Right.
And I don't want to get Fox hate from people.
Right.
Just my opinion. But you know, it's believable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, I mean, and his power on a night that he was playing.
Yeah.
And we've seen similar, and I think that proves out.
I think it proves out.
I think that there was hesitation about his prowess in the outfield, and I think that he's done a better than fair job out there.
Yes,
and I understand, yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I understand strategically why they want to save him for DH as much as possible too.
Right.
But given our outfield, and we want the best out there.
Yeah, we need the best out there. And I mean, I could say insert rant here because I've always been opposed to the way they handle Stanton. Sorry, I had to get a drink. Mm-hmm. I am opposed to this whole Stanton with kid gloves, wrap them in bubble wrap and stick them in as the DH every 3 days or whatever. You know what? The hell with that. Stanton should be out there every day. What is he? If he's that fragile, how's he even playing baseball?
Exactly.
So that's just my rant.
Oh,
so
no.
I'm glad to see that stat or that opinion.
And I 100% agree with you. It's the counterpoint to why they're benching the non-performers.
I hate it. Yeah.
Which is more easily, easily received.
Right.
And so I really do want to see him more out there, which would also assist us with our concerns about Hicks and our dismay about Andujar being sent down. Right. And we said our piece last week about that, although I know we should get into Hicks in a little bit. So, yeah. And I also there was something else tied to that I wanted to mention, and it just went out of my head. So,
well, speaking of Hicks, just briefly, because in a matter of days, Hicks went from being the village idiot to the hero. He's suddenly hitting. He's suddenly getting on base in ways other than walking.
Right.
So his on base percentage, I'm sure, is increasing, but so is his batting average.
Right.
And I mean, I know there's a debate and people don't give a crap about batting average now, or some people say they don't. But let me tell you, when a player walks up to the plate, they don't see their OPS. They're not seeing an OPS plus or a WRC plus number. They see their batting average.
That's right.
So there's got to be some motivation. And Hicks at least seems to be responding to this. He's getting on base more, although he's still hitting for a low average. But, you know, the other night, in fact, the Cubs walked Hicks because he's, you know, finally hitting. They walked Hicks.
Right, intentionally walked.
So they could get to Higgy, but then they switched out Higgy for Trevino, and that's when the magic happened.
Yes.
But Hicks had a role in that. So, I mean, he's at least starting to pull his own weight.
And he needed to feel that. And we have to remember, and you touched on it, he's another driven guy. And he came back on like wanting to bring the fire.
Right.
And it just hasn't ignited for him. So, you know, I hope that we, you know, get some momentum from what we've seen, you know, very recently.
Yeah.
I know what I wanted to mention just for fun. And this goes back to the Twins. How fun was it to see Sanchez and Urshela reuniting with everybody?
It was great. I loved it.
How hot does Sanchez look with a beard?
Yeah.
And do the Yankees need to change their rule on that? And I'm not talking Kuchel kind of beard.
Right.
So it was really, well, first of all, they didn't really worry us much performance-wise. But it was really sweet to see the interactions.
Yes.
And just good to see them as fans, right?
It was. I mean, you spend years rooting for players. You don't just, it's like love. You don't just unlove somebody. I mean, I root against them when they're at the plate with the bat in their hand against us. But I'm not rooting against them in life. I mean, I'm hoping I hope he hits, you know, 63 homers. I hope he bats, you know, 300.
Yeah.
Same for Gio. I might want him to be an all-star.
Yeah.
Not against us.
That's right. We love them as long as they're not playing us.
Yeah, and the Yankees unequivocally won the trade. It was an upgrade for us on both sides.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's just so it's not like I'm pining for either one because Donaldson has done the job.
Right. And when it happened, I was in the huge percentage of the fan base that was just fine with Gary going.
Right.
Urshela was one of my guys, so I was a little bit sad about that. But yeah, we sure did win that trade, as much as there was some grumbling going on, but we're always going to grumble, even if it was like a blinking in the headlights trade.
Yankees Twitter, man.
You know, you can't please them. There's just no
please all the people all the time.
So, but speaking of Trevino, and again, Katie Sharp is just getting a lot of shout outs from us today. So she tweeted out Jose Trevino fun fact, and she said that for Yankees pinch hit walk-off hits with 2 outs in the 13th inning or later, here is the occurrence. Jose Trevino, Friday night. And then the next most recent was from John Flaherty, Flash, and that was in 2004. So in this team, it's been 18 years since that happened. So, and then the oldest was Bill Dickey back in 1943. So that's just one of the things we could say. And, we know how rare, that's a rare, statistical basis, 13th inning and a pinch hitter, but still, clutch. That was an example of clutch.
Absolutely.
And in that circumstance, how rare it was.
Right. And not only that, but just the fact that the Yankee highlights this season are we're breaking records, we're reaching record levels. The Yankees have 7 walk-off wins this season. Wow. That's the most in MLB.
Yeah.
I mean, we're setting the bar high. The Yankees are 15-7 against teams over 500, which is the best in baseball. I mean, I can't say enough about, as a fan, where this team is right now, how excited I am every day to watch a game, to see who's pitching that day, whether they can keep, toeing the line.
Right. And what you just mentioned should really put some non-Yankee fans to bed, because there was a tweet also this week of the Yankees, the baseball teams with the easiest schedules.
Oh.
And where the Yankees were in those rankings shows you that they are actually facing they've been facing tough schedules, and we'll get to, no, I'm sorry. I have to get one thing backwards on every broadcast.
Right.
Let this be the only one. It's the opposite. So, all that to say, they have performed well against the easiest teams.
Yeah.
They're like in the top 10 of teams that have done so. And so let's let go of that aberration with the Orioles in April.
Yeah.
We're succeeding on that end.
Right.
And before we switch to the look ahead, I just also wanted to mention one other stat. And this is from at Billy Ball. And it says, last night the Yankees hit 6 solo home runs and now have 54. The Braves have 52. So the Braves are on our tail, essentially. Yeah. 9 teams in the majors don't even have a total of 54. And of any kind.
Yeah.
And 8 don't have more than 50. And then specific to Aaron Judge, he has 24 home runs, and the entire Tigers team has 30.
Oh my God. Jeez.
So all that to say, we're just, it's a great time to be alive and a Yankee fan.
It is. I mean, the team is clicking well on so many cylinders. They're like we said, there's still places where people are complaining, rightly so. Gallo, for example, but even he of late has been improved. So I think that we're seeing improvement in the different areas. The bullpen, I mean, there's no complaint there. Starting pitching, offense has been coming back from behind. Last year they did not do that. That was not last year's MO.
No, not at all. And getting Trevino was also a great get, because he's a full package, which is rare with catchers.
Yep.
And people are still talking about Contreras. Just stop it.
Just stop it.
We're not going to get him.
Contreras is not coming to the Bronx.
No. And then even with Hickey, his defense has picked up even more this season, I think. Less errors, less pass balls. And he had the edge on Gary last season, which I guess wasn't all that hard to do.
Exactly.
In that way.
I think we're finding that out now that Trevino's here.
Right. Exactly. Now the comparison is stark.
Yes.
And, you know, but, and maybe spring training was an aberration, but it also shows he has it in him. So maybe he's in a deep, dark valley. But maybe we'll see him climb back up.
Right.
Um, there's every reason to believe it's possible.
Well, looking ahead at what the Yankees are facing in the week and 2 weeks coming, the Jays, the Rays, and the Astros.
Yes.
That's I don't even like saying that.
No, it really leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Yes.
Yeah, so Jays are next. Tomorrow's an off day.
Yeah.
Jays come in for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then we go down to Tampa, have a stretch with the Rays.
Yeah.
And then back at home with the Astros.
Right.
And so, you know, looking at the numbers, it's not, it's, you know, obviously in our own division, you know, we're 8.5 above the Jays.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was before last night or not, because Jays and Rays both lost last night. Which, you know, is always a good thing.
Oh yeah, it's a good day.
But, you know, considering how close Jays and Rays are, and because it's a half game difference between the two, even if these numbers have to be refreshed, and with the Astros, they're ahead in the Central, by 8.
Yeah.
So these are hard, in fact, a hard line here.
Yeah.
And so, and maybe that's what I had in my head when I was opposite about easy teams.
Yeah.
This is the moment. This is the hard test.
These are the challenges of if the team is performing against teams over 500 at such a clip that, you know, we've read out the stat earlier, they should be performing well in this upcoming stretch, given what we've just said. I mean, I would say that the team that they're definitely going to have success against the Jays, because they've had success this year. The Jays have not significantly improved, have they, since we saw them last? So I'm going to say Jays, we're going to take that series.
Perhaps not a sweep, but
Rays, I just never know.
I don't see us sweeping any of the three. I
don't see that happening.
I think it's going to come down. I predict it's going to come down to rubber game for all of them. Just based on history and yeah, mostly based on history.
Yep.
And just hopefully we won't see a big impact in our divisional standings from it. That's really the key.
That's the key. Win and keep the lead you've got.
That's right. So I just wanted to, before we close, I want to toss out a trivia question for our listeners. And what I'd like you to do, and this is, you know, Scout's honor kind of thing. No Googling, no phone a friend, no lifelines whatsoever. Let me just find it real fast. Okay, so here's the question. 2 players in MLB have multiple walk-off hits this season. So that's for the entire MLB. 2 multiple walk-off hits this season. Who are those 2 players and from what teams?
Okay, interesting. Give us, you know what? We want your comments, like, subscribe, please, but mostly comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know the answer to this question.
That's right. And you'll get a moment in the spotlight on our next episode. And maybe a set of Ginsu knives in the mail. But you know, we'll tweet you out as the winner. We'll mention you next week. But really hope we hear from you guys, like Chris said, on all those things.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us this week. join us again next week. The Yankees are finishing up the series with the Cubs today. Go Yankees.
Go Yankees. And when we speak next Sunday, we'll have already met the Jays, and we'll have had 2 games with the Rays. So it's going to be going to be a fire episode next week.
Yep.
So like we say every week, you always have a reserved seat right here on the upper deck with me and Chris. Thanks for listening, and go Yankees.
Go Yankees.